Hello children, I hope you all are doing well. Let us begin with the administration given on page number 27. I hope you have revised what we did in the last audio lesson. We studied about the main features of Indus Valley, the town planning, buildings in the citadel, lower town and the dockyard. Let us now begin with the administration of the Indus Valley. Strict uniformity in town planning, weights, measures, even in the size of the bricks suggest that the cities were well administered. So you can underline these lines, the reasons can tell us which can easily suggest that the cities were well administered, which is number 1, strict uniformity in town planning, number 2, weights and measures, and number 3 is the size of the bricks. That means each of these details were very minutely observed, and that reflects that the city was well administered. However, the available evidence does not show that the cities were ruled by the kings. So children, when such things happen, the cities were well administered. If we look at the past, it's quite believed that it was ruled by kings. But the evidences that the archaeologists have found do not show that the cities were ruled by the kings. Each city was perhaps run by a committee consisting of priests and rich merchants. Please underline this line, that it was not the kings who ruled the city, but they are assuming that the city was run by a committee which consisted of priests and rich merchants. Committee is basically a team which consisted of priests and the rich merchants. Okay. Next is, it looked after different tasks such as collection of taxes, maintenance of law and order, regulation of trade, and so on. So what did this committee do, which had priests and rich merchants? What did they basically do? They looked after the tasks, different tasks, which one of them was collection of taxes. The second was maintenance of law and order, and third is regulation of trade, and so on. So you can put 1, 2, 3 there. So these are this is the task or the function that the committee performed. You can put a question there. Write the functions that the administration committee performed. Write the functions that the administration committee performed during the Indus period. So you have 3 different tasks here. These are the 3 different tasks that the administration committee performed. Moving on to society. Society probably consisted of 3 social groups. Please underline 3 social groups. Priests and rich merchants formed the ruling class. Underline this also. So who was on top? The priest and the rich merchants. They lived in the citadel. So we are all aware that citadel, the ruling class people used to live there, and the other, which is the non-ruling class, used to live in the lower town. So here it is clearly written, the rich merchants and priests were the ruling class and they lived in the citadel. The second group was that of small merchants, artisans and craftsmen. Underline the second group. It was of the small merchants, artisans and craftsmen. And where did they live? They lived in the lower town. Underline this also. So you all must be clear with this knowledge that the rich merchants and priests, their area of residential area was in the citadel, and the second group were small merchants, artisans and the craftsmen, those who prepare pottery or metal objects. All those people lived in the lower town. Now there was a third group also. The third group was that of laborers and farmers. Please underline this line. They lived in small huts outside the Indus cities. Now these people who are the lowest in the social ladder, they were not allowed to reside inside the city. They made small huts and resided outside the Indus city. It is very important paragraph, children. You can underline all this information. The next is food. Before that, let's put a small question for society. Um, you can write down a question: in how many groups was the Indus city society divided? In how many groups was the Indus society divided? The answer will be 3 social groups. And if it is a more than 1 mark question, you can also mention the groups there. Okay, coming to food. Wheat and barley were the main crops. Please underline this. During that time, wheat and barley was mainly grown. They were used to make bread. Oil was extracted from mustard. Underline this point also. So, we have information that wheat and barley was the main crop, and what was that used for? To make bread. Another thing, from mustard, which we call sarson, they used to take out the oil. Evidence from Lothal suggests that rice was cultivated. Now, Lothal is a place in Gujarat. Okay, so with that, during excavation, they must have figured out that Lothal they cultivated rice also. So, Indus Valley was not just restricted to few places. We already know it was in a bigger area. People ate meat, fish, eggs, milk, fruit and vegetable. Please underline more or less what people today also eat. That time also they consumed the same. You can underline these words. People ate meat, fish, eggs, milk, fruits and vegetables. Okay. Moving on to dress. What is the dress that at that time these people wore? The discovery of clay spindles. Underline the spindles. It's a new word. It's blue in color. So, we will go back to flip to page number 30. Spindle. In the new word spindle is given. It means a thin pointed rod used for spinning wool into thread by hand. So, if you have seen our grandmothers, mothers who know how to knit the sweater, so what they use to knit the sweater is more or less the spindle only. Okay. So, the discovery of clay spindles, at that time they did not have aluminum or whether even metal spindles, they had clay spindles, suggest that people were familiar with spinning and weaving. So, they used to create their own cloth. This has led historians to conclude that people wore clothes made of cotton. Underline this. So, because the spindles were found, it is understood or historians figured out that people knew spinning and weaving to create their own cloth, and because of this they realized that they used to wear clothes made of cotton. People also wore woolen clothes. Please underline that also. So, evidences also suggest that they wore woolen clothes. Men wore a garment similar to dhoti. Underline. So, we all know how dhoti looks like. So, at that time the men wore the garment which is similar to dhoti. Women wore short skirts which were held at the waist with a girdle. Now, what is a girdle? Again, look at page 30, new words. A cord fastened around the waist to keep clothes in position. So, basically a belt, what we use for. So, the women wear skirts which kept the dress in place with the help of girdle, and shawls formed the upper garment. So, the upper garment were basically with the help of a shawl. Next is ornaments. Both men and women wore ornaments. In today's world, if we see, men wear very less ornaments. I mean, men generally don't wear ornaments, but at that time men and women both wore ornaments. Underline the next line. Men wore amulets and finger rings, while women wore necklaces, bracelets, bangles and earrings. So, these are basically the name of ornaments that they used at that time. Amulet is a new word. You will look back and see. Amulet is basically an object worn on the arm or neck to protect oneself from evil. So, somewhat like we call it as a taviz or something, which people also would wear, or you would have seen someone wearing it. Okay, maybe a black thread which has a locket inside or something like that. So, an amulet and finger rings men used to wear, and women wore necklaces, bracelet, bangles and earrings. There are two pictures given on the page also, so that can help you to understand basically what it looked like. The rich wore jewelry made of gold and silver, The poor wore jewelry of bone, shell and copper. So even in the ornaments part, they had a differentiation of according to the wealth. The rich wore jewelry made of gold and silver, and the poor wore jewelry made of bone, shell and copper. You can underline these very clearly. It also reflects the standard of people's life there. Okay. Next is amusement. So what is that they Indus people did when they were not working? What is it that they did for recreation? Okay. Singing and dancing were quite popular. Please underline this. Singing and dancing, not like us that we are glued to TV all the time. Okay. So they were interested in singing and dancing. People played a game similar to modern chess. Underline this and put 2. This is the second thing that they did for amusement. They played a game which was similar to modern chess. Toys such as a small clay cart, animals with movable heads, monkeys that could slide down a ring, rattles, marbles, dolls, and bird-shaped whistles have been found. Please underline all of this. These are very important words. Most of this we already know. When we look at toys, we go to a Mela or something, we have all these kinds of toys available on, or in a shop also we come to see. Monkeys that could slide down a string, rattles, small babies which make noise, marbles, the kanchis which we call, dolls and bird shaped whistles have been found. So these were the toys that they used to make. These toys were made of terracotta. Just underline the next line also. The toys that they used were not of plastic, what we use today, but they used made of terracotta. Now what is terracotta? Again a new word. It is a reddish brown baked clay. Reddish brown baked clay. So those of you go to Kalagram exhibitions or any other exhibition, you must have seen those blue pottery or different pots that are available for sale. So most of them see there is base made of terracotta. It's a little maroonish in color. If you have it at home, those who have would easily come to know. It is a reddish brown baked clay. So these toys that they used to make were basically made of terracotta. Next we come to religion. We can form an idea about the religious life of the Indus people from the objects excavated from different sites. So whatever evidences we got, accordingly the historians have figured out the religious sentiments of Indus people. No temples have been found in any of the Indus site. Please underline this line. No temples have been found in any of the Indus sites. Second, they say the great bath may have been a religious structure used for ritual bathing. This we studied in the last lesson also, that only for special occasions they used to take bath in the great bath, which is in Mohenjo-daro. Third, this excavated articles suggest that people worshipped images. You can underline this line and put 3 there, that excavated articles, whatever articles they have excavated during the history digging, etc., they have figured that people worshipped images. Okay, image worship was there. Clay figures of female deity have been found at many places. Underline this line also. And during excavation they also found the clay figures means kind of a murti made of clay of a female goddess. Deity means goddess. During excavation they found it at many places, and they assumed that it was probably the mother goddess. Underline, this was probably the mother goddess. So many things about religion have been figured out with help of excavations. Next they say some seals depict a figure of 3 faces. So not just the murtis, not just the clay figures, not just images, not great bath. There are many other things also that are helping us to understand what was the religion or what was the religious practice of people. So seals, it's a new word. Look at it, the new word. It's a clay tablet with a design on it, mostly religious or official. So basically somewhat, and if I have to make you understand, it's basically we call it as mudra, or if you can see it's similar to a coin. But you have a coin, so it looks like that, but it was made of clay at that time, and it has a certain design. It could be either religious or it could be like official. Okay, So maybe of the king, or it could be also related to a god. So there were some seals also depicted which had 3 faces on it. He has a pair of horns on his head and is seated in a yogic posture surrounded by many animals. So it probably was a face of a god. Okay. Some historians believe it to be underlined Lord Shiva, represented as Pashupati, Lord of Beasts. So the seals that had 3 faces, it is assumed that it was, some historians believe that it is of Lord Shiva, who's represented as Pashupati. Many seals also depict the peepal tree. Please underline which tree? Peepal tree, which was perhaps held sacred and worshipped. Even today, few people also do worship the peepal tree. So at that time they found the seals which had the image of the 3-faced Pashupati, which is Lord Shiva, and also few seals, or many seals, in fact here it is written many seals were found which depicted the peepal tree, which was very sacred and worshipped. Next is a large number of amulets, which we just studied, those tavis etc., which help us to ward off evil eye, have also been found. That means people believed in those evil spirits also, and also believed in keeping them away. Okay, it suggests that people believed in evil spirits and so wore amulets to ward them off. So when they talk about religion and faith in God etc., they also believed that evil spirits are there, or they eye the evils, which buri nazar etc. So they also believed in this, and they keep the they used to wear the amulets to keep the evil spirit away. Evil spirit, not necessarily some spirit or ghost, basically it's negative energy, or in that way also we can consider it. Some excavated graves contained articles such as pottery and jewelry, suggesting that people believed in life after death. This in the earlier civilization also we studied that they also believed in life after death. And how did we figure out? Because during excavation in the graves, the pottery and jewelry was found of people who were dead. So why, how, what was the reason behind? People used to believe that someone who's dead would need those things in the next life also. So whenever a person used to die, they used to bury the important daily use articles also along with that person. So that's how these excavated graves contained those pottery and jewelry also. So that also shows that this civilization also believed in life after death. So far we have studied these 4 different heads. I will just give a recap again. It is administration, the society, they have 3 different groups, food they have written, what the dress people wore, ornaments, then what they did for amusement and recreation, and just now we studied about the religion. So far children, this is good enough for you to study. We will also just take up the first paragraph of occupation. The Harappans followed different occupations. Please underline. There were farmers, weavers, potters, jewelers, metal workers, toy makers, stone cutters, seal cutters, bead makers, boat makers, masons and traders. So many different occupations they have given. You can put a question there and write down, write any 5 major occupations. Write any 5 major occupations of the Indus people. Write any 5 major occupations of the Indus people. So basically we have so many, you can pick up any 5, and this is what the people did during that time: metal work, pottery, toy making, stone cutting, cutting the seal, making beads for ornaments etc., masons, those who created build the buildings etc., and traders as merchants. So in the next class we will be studying agriculture, metal work, bead making, all those occupations in detail, then transport, trade, seals, script, and the decline of Indus Valley. So give it a reading to what we studied today, and also if possible read the other portions as well, and in the next audio we will be finishing with this chapter. Thank you.